Well, good morning, everybody. Bill Cloud here. Welcome to On This Day. Today, it's the 19th day of the month Adar, and it was on this day in 1940 that the so-called McDonald-White paper went into effect. This was a document that restricted the sale of quote-unquote Arab lands to the Jews in the Holy Land and practically voided the Balfour Declaration. Of course, that was a previous document that promoted the establishment of a Jewish homeland. Ironically, on this same date on the Hebrew calendar in 1949, Israeli forces captured the wilderness site of En-Gedi, which, for all practical purposes, brought an end to military conflict during the Jewish War of Independence and, basically, secured the fulfillment of the Balfour Declaration. By occurring at En-Gedi, this climactic battle coincided with something else from Israeli history that is very interesting, because this was the place that David hid from Saul after David had been anointed to be king by Samuel. Now, these events, both modern and ancient, demonstrate that in spite of the best efforts of kings and kingdoms, Israel will not be stopped from fulfilling her mandate, and that is to be a light to the nations. Because the God of Israel, He will fulfill His word and He will fulfill His purpose in spite of all who would stand against it. Here's what the prophet Isaiah said. For as the rain comes down and the snow from heaven and do not return there, but water the earth and make it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish what I please, and it shall prosper in the thing for which I sent it. In our lives, there are external forces, sometimes internal forces, that work to disrupt the plans that the Creator has for us. Yet, when we observe Israel's modern and ancient history, then also consider our own personal testimonies, we can clearly see that the Creator is faithful to fulfill His purposes in and through His people. And so then, we need to take comfort in that. Nations and governments, they may have their agenda, but in the end, they will unwittingly perhaps, but nevertheless fulfill God's purpose. Now, when it comes to the culmination of that purpose, that is, the Messiah taking His rightful place upon the throne of David, the psalmist predicted that the nations of the world and its leaders would plot futile plans to disrupt that. In Psalm 2 it says, "Why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against His anointed, saying, let us break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us. He who sits in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall hold them in derision. Then He shall speak to them in His wrath and distress them in His deep displeasure. Yet I have set my King on my holy hill of Zion." So the point of all this is, man has his agenda. Nations have their agendas. And most of the plans of man and nations are to disrupt God's purposes. But in the end, God's purpose and His plan will prevail. Man's agenda is going to have to bow to the Creator's purpose. That is for the world and for His people. You and I are agents of that purpose, and we need to be in the right place at the right time, be filled with His Spirit, that we can be used to advance His kingdom in this day and time. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you again tomorrow on This Day. Shalom.
Like what you're hearing? Become a Bill Cloud Premium Partner to watch or listen to hundreds of hours of teachings and resources on demand. Go to BillCloud.com/subscribe to start watching today.